Have you ever stopped to watch a child's face when they are simply playing? No agenda, no goal, no performance. There's a light there, a complete presence, a state of pure flow where the true self breathes freely. Now watch that same child's face when you put them into a routine of 6 weekly activities, 3 languages, 2 sports, homework, behavioral goals, and expectations of excellence. The light goes out. The face tightens. The child disappears behind a mask of constant effort. You don't realize it, but you are complicating your child's life. And it's not because you're a bad father or a negligent mother. It's because you've inherited a pattern. You were raised in a culture that confuses love with control, care with anxious worry, and development with accumulation. Your parents did the same to you, and their parents did the same to them. It's a generational wound passed down like an invisible inheritance, the belief that a child needs to be molded, optimized, prepared, constantly watched, and directed to become someone in the future. But the truth is different. A child doesn't need to be complicated. They need to be seen. They need space. They need simplicity. They need you to remove the layers of anxiety you project onto them, disguised as love. Carl Jung dedicated his life to studying the human psyche and discovered something revolutionary. Individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are, doesn't happen through accumulation. It happens through subtraction. It happens when we remove the masks, the imposed expectations, the inherited patterns, and allow the true self to emerge. And this is even more true for children. The child's psyche doesn't need more stimuli, more rules, more control. It needs less interference, less projection, less complexity. Jung showed that parents, without realizing it, project their unresolved shadows onto their children, their frustrated ambitions, their insecurities, their fears, and these projections manifest as complications, as demands, as a childhood overloaded with expectations that suffocate the child's natural blossoming. You look at your child and see potential. But what do you really see? Their potential or your own unfulfilled need? Do you organize their routine thinking about their development or your anxiety that they'll fall behind? Do you demand discipline because they need it, or because you need to feel in control? Most parents are raising complicated children without realizing it. They are filling childhood with layers and layers of duty, performance, and urgency, believing they are preparing their child for the world. But what they are actually doing is preventing the child from becoming who they truly are. There are 9 simple, profoundly Jungian rules that can completely transform the way you raise your child. 9 ways to simplify their life, to remove the weight, to allow the true self to flourish. And the first thing you need to understand is this: simplicity isn't neglect. Simplicity is presence. Simplicity is courage. Simplicity is conscious love. But what Jung discovered about the parental shadow and the need for simplification will completely change how you look at your child's childhood from now on. Look at yourself now. Look honestly. How many times have you packed your child's schedule because deep down you're afraid they won't be enough? How many times have you demanded more effort, more dedication, more results because you carry the wound of never having been recognized enough? How many times have you complicated their routine because your own life is complicated and you don't know how to live any other way? You project. You project your anxiety. You project your shadow. You project your unfulfilled expectations. And the child, who should be playing, exploring, discovering who they are, is busy trying to live up to who you need them to be. You say you want what's best for them, but what is best? 6 extracurricular activities, or a whole afternoon free to simply exist? Perfect grades or the freedom to make mistakes without fear of disappointing you? An impressive resume at 10 years old or a childhood where they can just be a kid? While you complicate, they suffocate. While you project, their self cannot flourish. While you control, they lose themselves. You look at your child and see a to-do list, tasks to be completed, behaviors to be corrected, skills to be developed. You have turned their childhood into a project, an investment, a race against time where they always need to be one step ahead. But look at their face. You see exhaustion. You see tension. You see a child who can't relax because they've learned that relaxing is a waste of time, that playing without a purpose is a waste, that simply being is not enough. And you know where this comes from? From you. You were raised this way. You grew up believing you had to constantly prove your worth. That rest was laziness. That being loved depended on being productive. And now you are replicating this pattern. You are planting the same seeds of anxiety, inadequacy, and endless striving in your child's psyche that were planted in you. Recognize the pattern. Look at it without defense, without justification. Just look. You are complicating your child's life because you don't know how to simplify your own. You are projecting your urgencies because you haven't healed your own wounds. You are filling their childhood with noise because you never learned to inhabit the silence. But there is a choice now, a conscious choice. You can continue repeating the pattern, or you can break it. You can continue complicating, or you can start simplifying. You can continue projecting, or you can start seeing, truly seeing who they are, not who you need them to be, not who you're afraid they won't become. Seeing the child who is there, in front of you, asking for just one thing, space to flourish. Simplification is not a luxury. It's not a modern lifestyle. It's not a trend for privileged parents. Simplifying your child's life is an act of psychological healing. It's removing the layers of your own shadow that you've placed upon them. It's giving them what you never had, the permission to be enough exactly as they are. Do you recognize this pattern? Then you are ready to understand how it works and how to transform it. You are ready for the 9 rules that will change everything. Why do we complicate children's lives so much? Why do we turn childhood, which should be the lightest and most spontaneous period of existence, into a constant training ground? The answer lies in the parental shadow. The shadow, a central concept in analytical psychology, is everything we reject in ourselves. Everything we cannot accept, integrate, or acknowledge. It's the ambitions we never realized, the fears we never faced, the insecurities we never healed. And when we become parents, the shadow doesn't disappear. It gets projected. It finds a blank canvas in the child where it can manifest, disguised as care. You want your child to be disciplined because you could never be disciplined and you carry guilt for it. You want them to be sociable because you suffered from being shy and you don't want them to go through the same pain. You want them to be excellent at everything because you grew up feeling you were never good enough. These projections, however well-intentioned, complicate the child's life because the child isn't living their life. They are living your unlived life. They are carrying the weight of your expectations, your fears, your unconscious needs for repair. And the more you project, the more you complicate. More activities, more rules, more control, more vigilance, more intervention. You believe you are preparing the child for the world, but what you're doing is preventing them from fully inhabiting their own psyche. The child's psyche has a natural rhythm. It has its own impulse for growth, exploration, and discovery. But this impulse can only manifest in spaces of simplicity, in spaces where there's silence, where there's boredom, where there's freedom to do nothing with a defined purpose. Think of the image of a garden. The child is like a seed. They carry within them everything they need to flourish. But if you are constantly digging in the soil, pulling on the seedling to see if it's growing, adding excessive fertilizer, controlling every inch of the process, the plant doesn't grow healthy. It grows deformed. It grows dependent. It grows without deep roots. To simplify is to trust the child's natural process of individuation. It's getting your anxiety out of their way. It's stopping the constant interference and allowing their true self to find its own rhythm, its own form, its own expression. But simplifying demands something of you. It demands that you face your own shadow. It demands that you look at your projections and ask, is this about them or about me? It demands that you heal your wounds instead of trying to heal them through your child. A child doesn't need a complex life. They need conscious parents. Parents who don't project. Parents who don't control. Parents who know when to step back, when to be silent, when to simply be present without an agenda. Now that you understand the psychological root of complication, you are ready to learn the 9 rules that will simplify your child's life. And the first rule will challenge everything you believe about child development. Rule number 1, let the child be bored. Boredom is the sacred space where imagination flourishes. But you are afraid of boredom. You fill every second of your child's routine with activities, stimuli, screens, commitments. You believe you are nurturing their development, but you are just filling the void with noise. The child's psyche needs emptiness. It needs moments without direction, without purpose, without productivity. It is in boredom that the child finds themselves. It is there that they create, invent, explore their own inner world. When you eliminate boredom, you eliminate the possibility of individuation. You turn the child into a passive consumer of external stimuli, unable to generate life from within. Let your child be bored. Don't intervene. Don't offer solutions. Just watch. You will see creativity emerge naturally from the void. Rule number 2. Reduce the choices. You believe you are empowering your child by offering endless options. What to wear, what activity to do, what snack to eat, what show to watch. But the child's psyche is not prepared for the overload of decisions. Every choice demands psychic energy, and when there are too many choices, the child enters a state of paralysis, anxiety, and dependence on external validation to decide. Simplify. Offer 2 options, at most. Or better yet, you decide. A child doesn't need absolute autonomy. They need a loving structure. They need you, as the conscious adult, to filter the chaos of the world for them. When you reduce choices, you reduce anxiety. And in the absence of anxiety, the true self has space to manifest. Rule number 3. Take the child off the adult schedule. You've put your child on an adult's routine. Commitments in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Rigid schedules, weekly goals, constant performance reviews. You've turned childhood into an obsessive preparation for the future. But a child doesn't live in the future. They live in the present. And when you rip them out of the present and throw them into a race against time, you break the natural rhythm of the child's psyche. Childhood is not an investment. It is not a preparatory stage. It is an end in itself. The child is not becoming. They already are. And they need time to simply inhabit their being without the adult urgency of always becoming something more, something better, something productive. Reduce the commitments. Cancel activities. Leave the afternoon free. Allow the child to breathe. Allow them to exist without performance. Rule number 4. Stop explaining everything. You are constantly explaining, teaching, correcting, instructing. You have turned every moment with your child into a pedagogical opportunity. But a child doesn't need so many words. They need silent presence. They need you to simply be there, without an agenda, without learning objectives, without the need to optimize every interaction. The child's psyche learns through osmosis, through unconscious imitation, through absorbing the energetic field around them. When you talk too much, explain too much, teach too much, you block the deep communication between their unconscious and yours. You turn the relationship into a classroom instead of a genuine encounter between 2 souls. Be silent. Just be. Allow the child to feel you without you needing to say anything. It is in the silence that true transmission happens. Rule number 5. Eliminate overprotection disguised as care. You don't let the child climb the tree. You don't let them get dirty. You don't let them make a mistake. You don't let them get frustrated. You intervene before any discomfort can happen because you believe you are protecting them. But what you are doing is preventing the child from developing psychological resilience. The shadow of the child's self can only be integrated through confrontation with difficulty. The child needs to fall. They need to fail. They need to feel frustration, discomfort, fear. Not because you are cruel, but because that is how the psyche matures. When you remove all obstacles, you are not loving. You are disabling. Let the child handle small difficulties. Watch without intervening. Trust that they have inner resources. Because they do. And the more you interfere, the more you send the message that they are not capable. And that message becomes the core belief they will carry about themselves. Rule number 6. Reduce toys and possessions. You fill your child's room with toys, believing you are providing a wealth of experiences. But what happens to the child's psyche when there is excess? It becomes scattered. It jumps from one stimulus to another without ever going deep, without ever truly playing, without ever truly inhabiting the experience. Material simplicity teaches a child to value, to care for, to be present with what they have. When there is less, they play more deeply. They create more complex narratives. They develop imagination because they have to transform the simple into the extraordinary. Get rid of toys. Donate them. Store them away. Leave only a few, chosen with intention, and watch how the quality of play changes. Watch how the child settles down, how they concentrate, how they finally stop consuming and start creating. Rule number 7. Simplify eating. You are negotiating, bargaining, creating complex rituals around food. Mealtime has become a battlefield where you try to control what goes into the child's body as if it defines your worth as a parent. But a child's relationship with food should be simple, natural, intuitive. Offer healthy food, put it on the table, and let the child decide how much to eat. Don't force. Don't negotiate. Don't turn eating into a psychological drama. A child is born with the ability to self-regulate. They know when they're hungry. They know when they're full. But you break this ability when you constantly interfere, when you project your anxiety onto their body, when you turn every meal into a test of control. Trust the child's body. It knows what it needs. And when you stop complicating things, their relationship with food will naturally become healthy. Rule number 8. Limit screen time without guilt. You know that screens are stealing your child's childhood. You know they are addictive, distracting, alienating. But you feel guilty for limiting them because the child cries, complains, because everyone else has them, because you're tired and need a moment of peace. But here's the truth. A screen is not rest. It is dissociation. It is an escape from presence. It is psychological anesthesia. And the more you allow it, the more the child is displaced from their own self. They stop playing. They stop creating. They stop relating. They become a passive consumer of content manufactured by algorithms that have no interest in their healthy development. Limit it drastically, without negotiation, without guilt. You are the adult. You decide. And the child, after the initial resistance, will return to inhabiting the real world. They will start playing again. They will return to themselves. Rule number 9. Allow the child to do nothing. This is the hardest rule because it goes against everything you believe. You were taught that idleness is a waste, that a child needs to always be doing something productive, developing some skill, achieving some goal. But the psychological truth is this: it is in doing nothing that the self is found. It is in the emptiness that the psyche breathes. It is in the absence of an agenda that individuation happens. Allow your child to simply exist, without purpose, without a goal, without needing to justify their time. Let them lie on the floor and stare at the ceiling. Let them sit in the yard and watch the ants. Let them be silent without you needing to fill that silence with questions, activities, or worries. It is in these seemingly empty moments that the child integrates everything they have experienced. It is there that they process emotions, organize thoughts, connect experiences. It is there that the true self has space to emerge without the constant interference of the external world. Doing nothing is not laziness. It is presence. It is healing. It is the natural state of the child's psyche that you, without realizing it, have destroyed by filling every second with stimulation, control, and expectation. Now that you know the 9 rules, comes the hardest part: applying them. Because applying these rules isn't just about changing external behaviors. It's about facing your own shadow. It's about recognizing that every complication you imposed on your child was, in fact, a projection of your unhealed wounds. So here is the integration practice that will transform everything. Get a notebook. Set aside 10 minutes of absolute silence, and answer these questions with brutal honesty, without defense, without justification. First question: which of the 9 rules scares me the most? Why? The rule that scares you the most is the one that reveals where your biggest projection lies. If it's boredom, you're afraid of being irrelevant. If it's screens, you're afraid of conflict. If it's allowing the child to do nothing, you're afraid they won't be enough. Look at that fear. Acknowledge that it is yours, not theirs. Second question: what did I need in my childhood that I never received and am now trying to compensate for through my child? Are you filling their life with activities because you grew up feeling you never did enough? Are you controlling their eating because you were controlled and never developed autonomy? Are you overprotecting because you were emotionally abandoned and never want them to feel what you felt? Write it down. Look at the pattern. See how you are using your child to heal your own wounds, and then ask, do they need this or do I need this? Third question: if I drastically simplified my child's life, what would I be afraid of? Afraid they would fall behind? Afraid they wouldn't be special? Afraid they wouldn't love you if you weren't constantly doing, organizing, solving? Afraid that, in the simplicity, You would become unnecessary. These fears reveal the real reason you complicate things. It's not for their sake. It's for your need to feel important, necessary, in control. And as long as you don't face these fears, the child will continue to suffocate. Fourth and final question. If I allowed myself to simplify my own life, what would change in my relationship with my child? Because deep down, you complicate their life because you don't know how to simplify your own. You project anxiety because you live anxiously. You fill their schedule because you don't know how to inhabit the emptiness of your own existence. The simplification of your child's life begins with the simplification of your life. It begins when you stop running, when you slow down, when you learn to be present without needing to be constantly doing something productive. You've made it this far. You've read the 9 rules. You've recognized the patterns. You've seen where you are projecting. And now there's no going back. You can no longer unsee it. You can no longer pretend you don't know. You are now the conscious observer of your own parental shadow. And that changes everything. Simplification is not a one-time event. It's not a decision you make once and you're done. It is a daily practice of removing layers, of stepping back, of being silent, of trusting. It is a constant act of courage because it goes against everything the culture has taught you about parenting. You will look around and see other parents complicating, filling schedules, controlling, projecting, and you will feel afraid that you are doing it wrong. You will feel afraid that simplifying is neglecting, that giving space is abandoning, that allowing boredom is depriving. But look at your child's face when they are simply being, when there is no expectation, when there is no performance, when there is no pressure to live up to anything. See the light there. See the presence. See the true self breathing freely. That is the confirmation that you are on the right path. You are not raising a perfect child. You are allowing a unique human being to flourish in their own way, at their own pace, without the distortions of your shadow projected onto them. And that is the greatest gift you can give. The journey of conscious parenting never ends. It deepens. Every day is a new opportunity to observe where you are complicating, where you are projecting, where you are controlling. And every time you recognize it, step back and simplify. You are not just changing your child's life. You are healing your own psyche. You are breaking the generational cycle of anxiety, control, and suffocating expectation that was passed down to you. You are now the one who breaks the pattern. You are the consciousness that interrupts the repetition. You are the space where a child can finally be a child. Now I want to hear from you. Of the 9 rules you heard today, which one impacted you the most deeply? Which one scared you? Which one do you know you need to apply immediately, but are resisting? Write it in the comments. Not for me, for you. Because to write is to make conscious. And when you make it conscious, you can no longer act unconsciously. If you felt the courage to look at your parental shadow during this video, if you recognized at least one pattern you are projecting onto your child, like this video, not as an automatic gesture, but as a conscious commitment to simplification. And if you want to continue this journey of deep parenting, of psychology applied to raising children, of consciousness that transforms generations, subscribe to this channel. Because every week I bring a new layer of understanding about the child's psyche, the parental shadow, and the process of individuation that happens in the relationship between parents and children. The journey is just beginning. Simplify. Observe. Step back. Trust. Allow the child to flourish. You are no longer the complication. You are now the space where life can happen freely.